It's Monday, August 20th. The full magnitude of the devastation unleashed by the rains in Kerala will only become clear once conditions are conducive to stock taking. But those in the know are already saying it is the worst floods in nearly a century since 1924, the southern state's reference year for the unprecedented catastrophe wreaked by the fury of floodwaters. Then, 3 weeks of incessant rains had submerged many districts of present-day Kerala. Old-timers talk of how an entire hill, the Karindirimala, was washed away in floodwaters, and in the process, the road to Munnar. How much rainfall did Kerala receive in 1924? The highest in its recorded history, 3,368 millimeters. How much rainfall has Kerala received this year? Up to August 15th, the state had already received a cumulative 2,091.1 millimeters. It is, remember, expected to rain for a few more weeks. In particular, it is the severity of the downpour from August 8th to August 15th that left the state so badly battered and took so many more lives. What factors, apart from the volume and severity of rainfall in short periods, led to devastation on such a scale? Kerala has 58 dams and reservoirs. Typically, at this time of the year, as this Indian Express report points out, these dams are filled to barely 50% of its capacity. This year, though, all 6 large dams, as also the smaller ones, got filled almost to full capacity by the end of July. The Idamalayar and Idukki, with storage capacity in excess of 1 billion cubic meters, are almost 100% full now. So, the question, shouldn't water have been released gradually as the levels rose? A review meeting of disaster authorities under the Union Home Ministry reportedly questioned the state for not gradually releasing water from its dams, with one senior official reportedly saying, had water been released gradually, the crisis could have been contained. The Central Water Commission specifies a rule curve for the operation of reservoirs and dams, which essentially lays out ideal storage or empty space planned to be achieved in a reservoir under different conditions of probabilities of inflow. The rule curve as such does not give the amount of water to be released from the reservoir. It depends on the forecast of inflows, demands to be met, and flooding conditions of the downstream channels. There are doubts over whether this was observed by authorities in Kerala. How did encroachments lead to the river reclaiming itself? Kerala, remember, is situated along the Western Ghats. Environmentalists say most of the regions impacted by the rains were classified ecologically sensitive by the Madhav Gadgil Committee in its 2011 report. The committee had suggested classifying 140,000 kilometers of the Western Ghats into 3 zones as per the requirement of environmental protection in the areas. In some areas, the committee recommended strong restrictions on mining and quarrying, use of land for non-forest purposes, and construction of high-rises, etc. The then Kerala government had rejected the committee report. Earlier this week, Madhav Gadgil also pointed out that quarrying is a major reason for the mudslides and landslides. Other environmentalists also point fingers at extensive quarrying, mushrooming of high-rises as part of tourism, and illegal forest land acquisition by private parties as factors. What are the challenges being faced in relief and rescue efforts? Telecom operators may have announced measures like extra talk time and free data for users in Kerala, but mobile networks have been non-functional in several pockets, primarily because electricity is required to run cell towers. Many power transformers have been switched off as per standard operating procedure during floods to avoid major mishaps. Now, Google has announced that anybody who's stuck can share their location even if they are offline. They can use their Android smartphones to generate and share the plus code of their exact location, which can make it easier for rescue workers to reach them. Meanwhile, landslides and continuing rainfall has made it difficult for rescuers to even get a proper measure of where houses stood and finding the debris and bodies buried underneath. What is the road to recovery and how much money will be needed to rebuild Kerala? The Mint last week quoted a state government official as saying early assessments put the damage in excess of 50,000 crore rupees. State and national highways of about 10,000 kilometers will need rebuilding, as also panchayat roads of 65,000 kilometers. And then there is the immense loss to agriculture. The Supreme Court will today hear a plea filed by over 300 army personnel challenging the filing of police cases against them for operations in areas where the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, or AFSPA, is in force. The petition states that registration of FIRs against army personnel was against the provisions of AFSPA, as the Act grants immunity to them against the prosecution for actions performed during official duties. Army personnel are being prosecuted for alleged excesses and fake encounters, such as in Manipur. The Supreme Court had in July last year ordered a CBI probe into the alleged extrajudicial killings by the Army, Assam Rifles and Manipur Police in Manipur. A public interest litigation had alleged over 1,500 extrajudicial killings in Manipur between 2002 and 2012 by security forces and the state police. The centre had told the Supreme Court that of the 282 cases sent to it for verification, 70 cases were found to be related to the Army and Assam Rifles, and the rest to the state police. In one of the worst casualties of the 3-year-old Yemen war, 40 children below the age of 10 were killed in southern Yemen earlier this month. Out on a school picnic, the children were on their way to Sada city for a visit to the 9th century Al-Hadi Mosque. Killed by an air raid, they never made it. The attack also killed 11 others in the area. Over the next few days, parents searched in vain for body parts of their children, but all that remains is this. In 2015, a Saudi Arabia and UAE-led coalition declared war against Yemen's Shia rebel group, the Houthis, who have been in control of southern Yemen since a 2011 uprising against Yemen's last ruler. It is widely thought that the Houthis are funded by Iran. After increasing allegations of war crimes, the UN blacklisted the coalition and asked them to conduct an investigation into the incident. But out of the 16,000 plus raids they launched since the start of the conflict, only a handful have been investigated, despite nearly a third of all bombs hitting civilian targets, reported Al Jazeera. The US has also been criticized for supplying weapons to the coalition. The Mk-82 bomb used in this attack is US-made. In a similar 2016 attack, a 500-pound bomb airdropped on a community hall hosting a funeral in Sana'a, killing at least 140 people. Around 6 p.m. on Independence Day in Mumbai's Baikla Zoo, an egg began to crack. Out came a fluffy 70